All right, guys, so we've been doing some labs talking about cell size. I wanted to do some labs beforehand just to kind of see how you would pick up on the relation with cell size and why cells are small. And, and for some of you, then when we did the POGL and then we did the BEAT lab, the BEAT cell size lab, most of you could pick up on why we did it. But now I want to go through the notes, and so the people that are still kind of fuzzy, they're going to be able to maybe lock it in and click it in of why cells are small. Now remember, up here, the highly complex organization of living things requires constant input of energy, okay, so that's key, and an exchange of macromolecules. So we're going to be addressing this today, so be listening for that, right? Okay, so now there are fundamental rules of physics that dictate why cells behave the way they do. Okay? In rule one, and there's going to be two rules I want you to look at. A larger cell is harder to move material in and out of, right? So the bigger the cell, the material is going to have not say a harder time, but it's going to take a longer amount of time. And that will not work for a cell that's constantly needing material, right? And so keep in mind that if there's a nutrient, it crosses into the membrane, it's got to get to the nucleus. And it's got to get to the nucleus in a reasonable amount of time. And so the smaller the cell, the better it is. Now, the process where that material moves into and through a cell, that's called diffusion, and it doesn't require energy of any type. It just happens. But the bad thing is it happens at a certain rate of speed. Remember, if you send two cars at the same speed to do different locations, but they're going the same speed, the location it gets to first is probably the closer location. So between, say, like from Rensselaer to Lafayette, or Rensselaer to Indianapolis, it's going to take longer to get to Indianapolis because simply it is a longer distance. Okay, and so the bigger that distance, the more stress that's going to put on that cell to get the material in and out. Now, I've been saying material. The material that it's going to need is oxygen. So this oxygen's got to be able to diffuse through the membrane into the nucleus. And if it doesn't, that cell, one of three things are going to happen. The cell is going to die, it's going to be forced to divide, or it might start forming folds, which we'll talk about here in a second. Some things else that it needs are nutrients. So like glycogen, glucose needs to get in and power all these. So those kind of nutrients go in. Water is one that's got to be able to get in there. And then not only does it need nutrients, but it's also going to have waste that's got to be able to get out before it poisons the cell, like CO2, or, well, CO2 would probably be the one that you would be most interested in here. Okay, so that's rule one. Okay, rule two. If you take a balloon and you blow it up, you will see the balloon get much bigger in volume than you will see it stretch on its surface. There will come a point, though, if you keep blowing up that balloon, it's going to reach a certain point. It's not going to be able to expand anymore. The surface area of the balloon is not going to be able to expand, and it's going to pop. Cells are the same way. If they get too big, they're going to reach a certain point where they're forced to die, divide, maybe fold up. And so this is a physical law, right? So as the volume increases, the surface area decreases. And I want you to think of it. If this is a small cell, and let's just say it has 1, 2, 3, 4 doors, openings to get in nutrients and all the things it needs and get out all the waste, it's going to have a hard time. But let's say we increase the cell size, but we keep just 4 doors. Well, remember, when a cell gets larger, its nutrient load needs to be bigger. It's increasing. And so the surface area, the number of doors, isn't going to change. So there's only going to be so many ways this stuff can get through, the nutrients and other material the cell needs. And so it stresses that cell when it gets bigger. Right? So this is kind of a rule. And it always is going to limit cell size, so you'll never see a dinosaur or a blue whale, which is the biggest animal ever, have big cells, right? And so Mother Nature has kind of combated that problem. Not only do now when they get to a certain size, cells get to a certain size, they will divide, but they will also begin folding. Okay, and here's an example. And where we focus in on these roots, you'll notice that the roots have little tiny, looks like hairs. Those are just root hairs. They're extensions of the cell just to increase the surface area to help the cell get more and more things into it and things out. These also help anchor and anchor into the soil. Maybe here get oxygen. Here's a kind of a drawing of that extension. You know, you think of the human brain, it's wrinkly, right? And so it's wrinkly not because it's wrinkled, because it's increasing its surface area, so you can stuff more brain matter into the skull. Okay, small intestine, very much the same way. Here's the lining of the small intestine. Here's the epithelial cell, and you'll see that it has microvilli, which are kind of like root hairs. They're just extensions where it's folded, and then as the food passes through, it's coming into contact with more and more surface area, and it's able to absorb way more nutrients. And so Mother Nature's kind of figured out some go-arounds between the rule of volume versus surface area. Okay, I think that's it.